I only take all of my news from the Washington Post and the New York Times. They tell me what to think. And then after telling all you what to think because of they what to think, I go and I collect my nice fat check from USAID and George Soros. It's how I've managed to buy this lovely private island that I am streaming from. Yes, the life of a paid propagandist is great. You know what I mean? Today's meme. When you hide in all that PSYOP money. Man, the PSYOPs business is like really, really profitable, right? You know, what I want to know is there any room in the PSYOPs industry for like, you know, sort of small self-owned businesses? Like, you know, could I start myself up as my own PSYOP shop? The one-stop PSYOP shop, right? I'll just be like, look, just pay me like a shitload of money. So like, if anyone knows how I can get into the PSYOPs industry, if, you know, there's room for a small sort of like one-person contractor, you know, to start doing PSYOPs, just pay me an incredible amount of money and I'll be fine, right? You know, all of my principles are for sale. You know, I have no sort of like soul or core being. I'm just basically like a globalist shill in waiting, bros. You know, that's why I do this show, of course, because of the immense amounts of money that I make. You know, saying the things that I do, immensely profitable. Look, it must be profitable. I keep reading all of these reports from NGOs, right? Talking about how incredibly profitable misinformation is, right? That's the only reason why people do it, is because of all the incredible amounts of money, bros. And yes, it's amazing. It's just amazing. Evil Author 1776, apply to USAID. Oh, wait. I know. I was going to apply to USAID, you know, and say like, oh, look, you know, what if you paid me like $100 million to teach like salamanders in Guatemala to do the cha-cha or something. Now my dreams are destroyed. I'll never get, you know, $100 million to analyze like which cereals are the crunchiest, right? I could do that from home, right? I wouldn't even need to leave my house, right? I could just take the $100 million and get ChatGPT to like write something and just send it to them. You know, they don't care. It's not their money, right? Anyway, enough of that. Let's get on with the news, shall we? So we start just a little bit of a catch up. USAID, it's down, bro. It's down. F's in the chat for USAID. They don't even have a sign anymore, bros. Tragic. Apparently, the building is now being occupied by ICE, immigration enforcement. Terrible. Now, there has been some sort of questions about Samantha Power, the head of USAID, and how it was that she now has approximately a $30 million net worth, reportedly, whilst getting a $150,000 a year salary. I'm sure it's all above board, bros. I'm sure it's fine, right? Now I've been sort of like hammering on this point for a bit, but I just want all of my viewers to understand how this works, right? What we were not aware of is that Soros and Gates and all those people, they're not using their own money. They're using some of their own money, right? Like they'll give like a few millions, you know, to like someone, and then they'll get the government to spend 10 or 20 times that amount of money in the way that they choose. So this guy sums it up really well. Samantha Power is installed on the board of a non-profit or consulting firm. USAID then gives money to that NGO or consulting firm. USAID gives money to an NGO. NGO then gives money to the organization or firm. The organization or firm then pays Samantha, who's head of USAID, and then USAID gives more money to the NGO. That's how it works. It's a complicated shell game, bros. This is pretty funny. So, as you can imagine, the lefties have been very, very keen to dox anyone associated with DOGE, but they've only managed to claim one scalp so far, and it doesn't even seem to be permanent. This did produce some very, very, very funny television, because for some weird reason, the CNN and all of that, they didn't want to name this 19-year-old kid, possibly because they might get sued under the new administration. So they had to refer to him to his internet moniker, Big Balls.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with Musk and Big Balls.
Big Balls.
Big Balls.
Big Balls, who work for Elon Musk's so-called Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE.
In the one case of the Big Balls kid, a literal teenager.
Big Balls online, Big Balls here.
that Katie's talking about.
A 19-year-old that goes by the username Big Balls.
So that would be one way that we could refer to him.
Young computer whizzes, the aforementioned big balls.
Because who among us doesn't feel better about big balls in charge of American air traffic control?
This is Flight 719 coming into Atlanta Tower. Are you there? Flight 7619, this is Big Balls. Please let down your Big Balls landing gear and approach for landing. Oh my God. And then of course we had this. I'm not sure if I covered this before. I'm working so many shows now, but this is a great clip. Is anyone tired? I'm feeling a certain kind of fatigue is setting in, bros. If only someone had a name for this specific form of fatigue, right? You know, I think I'm literally the only person to have noticed this.
Advocate on behalf of your children. You are not allowed to come into this building where you pay taxes. Parents who have children who are disabled, access is being blocked. You voted for members of Congress to advocate on behalf of your children. Children with disabilities, for young women who have been victims of sexual assault in our classrooms, on our school grounds. Members of OCR are fighting for your children. We are not allowed in the building to talk to them. We are not allowed to advocate on behalf of America's children. America, we have a problem. Now, everybody stand.
America, we have a problem. Yes, you are the problem. This is in front of the Department of Education. After it was announced that DOGE was in there, there have been reports that the Department of Education has been shut down, but there's been no confirmation so far. Now, of course, the Democrats are very, very concerned that their bureaucracy is being under attack. It's very, very dangerous for our bureaucracy. And Jamie Raskin, a sort of deep state goblin, such that he is, he's gonna do a lawsuit, mate. He's gonna sue somebody.
What I'm thinking about and talking to my friends at Democracy Defenders and other lawyers about is, could there be a nationwide class action lawsuit to follow up on last week's victories against Musk, against the Trump administration for this breach in computer security and the data of all American taxpayers? It could be a class action suit on behalf of all Americans. If the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers want to opt out and they don't want their part of the money for the contamination of their data, fine, they can opt out. But really, it's a suit on behalf of everybody because that's our information. Right. It doesn't belong to Elon Musk or his little midnight crew. It belongs to the people, and the government has to hold it in trust. Now, there's specific statutes which say that information can only be accessed for tax purposes, for the purposes of the internal revenue system, and for no other purposes. What are they using that information for?
I'm pretty sure they're using that information to uncover corruption, mate. Just a guess, right? So this has basically rolled onto the sort of the meat of the story that I'm getting into, which is this US judge, what's his name, Paul Engelmeyer, has temporarily blocked DOGE from accessing payment systems at the Treasury. Now, I want to point out, right, like DOGE only has sort of like read access. They can't actually change anything. They're just trying to find out what the hell is going on. And of course, the deep state is like, no, because of course the deep state runs on money. This whole thing runs on money. Spaghetti money. You know, like all the, little sort of incestuous, like spaghetti kind of like stuff. And they are very, very scared. You've probably got like, tons, thousands and thousands of these people. And all they do basically is, work for the government, right? Hold things up and collect a paycheck, right? It's incredibly corrupt. If these people are sort of fired from their jobs, what else are they going to do? Their whole career has basically been sort of getting a paycheck for sustaining the status quo. So from Reuters, February 8th, so this is a couple of days ago, federal judge on early Saturday temporarily blocked billionaire Elon Musk's government efficiency team from accessing government systems used to process trillions of dollars in payment, citing a risk that sensitive information could be improperly disclosed. I'm sure that's the real reason why they're worried. US District Judge Paul Engelmeyer in Manhattan, right, so New York, right, issued the order after a coalition of Democratic attorneys general from 19 US states filed a lawsuit late Friday arguing that DOGE has no legal power to access the US Department of Treasury systems. Now, I'm pretty sure that is untrue, but, you know, they're just trying to buy as much time as they can to delete, you know, to, like, cover stuff up, basically. I don't think it's going to work. My suspicion is that the fraud and waste at the Treasury Department is so incredibly heinous. There's no way they can cover up. I imagine they'll probably want a week to, you know, try and like just cover up the worst of it, try and cover their asses a bit, you know, be like, oh no, you know, it wasn't us that, you know, literally stole trillions of dollars from the US taxpayer. No, it was somebody else, bro, right? Hours after the ruling was issued, Musk called it absolutely insane. The billionaire said the Treasury Department and DOGE had agreed to require all outgoing government payments to include a rationale in the form of a comment and to have a categorization code. Now, this is the thing, right? The agreement that Musk actually like made with the Treasury. Wait, I've got it here somewhere. This is what Musk actually wanted from the US Treasury, right? He wanted to require that all outgoing government payments have a payment categorization code, which is necessary in order to pass financial audits. This is frequently left blank, making audits almost impossible. So they're just giving out money. They're not even recording who the fuck it's going to, right? All payments must include a rationale for the payment in the comment field, which is currently left blank. So basically, right, you've just got the US Treasury just sending out all this money, right? They're not even saying like why, right? Like they don't have to like put like a code. They don't even have to have a reason. Importantly, we are not yet applying any judgment to this rationale, but simply requiring that some attempt be made to explain the payment more than nothing, right? The do not pay list of entities known to be fraudulent or people who are dead or are probable fronts for terrorist organizations or do not match congressional appropriations must actually be implemented and not ignored. It can currently take up to a year to get on this list, which is far too long. The list should be updated at least weekly, if not daily. Yesterday, I was told that there are currently over $100 billion a year of entitlement payments to individuals, with no social security number or even a temporary ID number. If accurate, this is extremely suspicious. When I asked if anyone at Treasury had a rough guess for what percentage of that number is unequivocal and obvious fraud, the consensus in the room was about half. So about $50 billion a year or $1 billion a week in sort of like outright fraud. Not even stuff that like, you know, is it fraud or is it not? It's insane. Right, so let's see where we're back here. So, Trump, in response, has filed an emergency motion to vacate the Treasury's restraining order, asserts that no court can sever presidential supervision mandated by Article 2 of the Constitution. So basically, this is going to, at some point, get to a court. I don't know exactly how it works. I presume, again, the idea basically is to just tangle this up in the courts as long as possible until it gets to an actual sort of reasonable court outside of New York, when presumably they will basically say that under the Constitution, because the Treasury is in fact a part of the executive. Wait, where is it? I've got a little thing on this. Oh no, I didn't put up. But
to make that kind of a decision is a disgrace.
A couple of court losses, Mr. President.
So this is the question. How long is it going to take for this to resolve? How long will Trump put up with this kind of obstruction? Many people were basically saying that he should just ignore them, right? Like pull an Andrew Jackson, just be like, the court has rendered its decision. Now let's see them enforce it. But I don't think Trump really wants to do that necessarily. It could set a very bad precedent. But the longer it takes for them to get data from the Treasury Department, the more stuff they are going to be able to cover up. Now, this is breaking from today. This is indeed very interesting. Now, I can't find video of this comment, but everyone is reporting that Trump said that the US may in fact have less debt than it thought because of fraud. Now, many people are picking over this sort of throwaway comment, trying to figure out what he meant. Apparently, he said that some Treasury payments might not count. He also implied that there might be fraud in the US bond market, right? So that some of these bonds, some of the US Treasuries may in fact have been issued fraudulently, in which case there would be a case to like withdraw them, right? Something tells me that this would be a way to attack China. It would be a sort of like a weird sort of selective default, essentially, right? Like the US would basically say a bunch of these treasuries were in fact emitted fraudulently, so we are going to remove them from circulation. We are going to extinguish them. So it would be a default of a sort, but not really, because it's not like we can't pay. It's just that there was fraud involved in the payments. We're even looking at treasuries. Trump said there could be a problem. You've been reading about that with treasuries, and that could be an interesting problem. It could be that a lot of these things don't count. In other words, that some of the stuff we're finding is very fraudulent. Therefore, we maybe have less debt than we thought. And people are chewing over this comment, right? Like, you know, basically, oh wait, that's the wrong, mate. Why do I have this up on the thing? Right, excuse me. Pardon me. So, weirdly enough, though, there has been no actual movement in the Treasury market at the moment, right? Bond yields are basically stable. Many people are sort of like wondering what this means, right? Is this a sort of attempt by Trump to try and sort of like get the Fed in line? Traditionally, the Fed, you know, because it's, you know, they say it's independent. That basically means the government's got no control over it. Has been very, very hard to influence. And you frequently get regimes where the Fed is basically doing stuff to undermine the president. And it's very, very bad. So Trump is sort of collecting leverage that he can use against the Fed and the Treasury. And indeed, the Treasury has basically said, sorry, the Fed has said that they are cutting rates again soon, which is very, very useful for Trump, because it is the Fed, and by setting of the sort of base interest rate, that really controls the pace of the entire economy. Now, you might say to yourself, well, why does the Fed get to do that? Well, that's a long story. But before the Fed, banks used to be able to set their own interest rates. And then the Fed came along and said, oh, well, we need financial stability, and we need an elastic money supply and all that kind of other stuff. We can't trust banks to set their own interest rates, so you better give all the power to us. And, oh, yeah, government can't influence in any way, shape, or form. And, of course, as you know, things have been going great since then. And there has never been a financial crash since 1913. Now, this is quite an interesting clip. Allegedly, this is a former World Bank president, I don't know exactly who, essentially saying that the Fed is bankrupt, and it has been bankrupt for a while. And essentially what it's been doing is issuing treasuries to buying up treasuries. But basically, it's been juicing the market to keep rates low. Check it out.
Yeah, it's worrisome. You know, the Fed basically has become now just a giant hedge fund. It's lost $1 trillion, you know, and counting. It's going to be a gigantic loss. What it does is borrows money at 5.4% from banks and then dumps it into government bonds. So think what that trade does. That causes the government to think that it's better off than it is. And so that encouraged the government to be short when rates were zero. So why did the government, borrow?
Right. So basically what this guy's saying is that the Fed is borrowing money from normal banks at like 5.4%, right? And using that money to buy bonds to keep the bond rates low, right? And then the Fed winds up owing insane amounts of money to actual banks at like a much, much higher interest rate.
So much in T-bills, well, because the Fed was buying the bonds and it made it look like yields were going to stay low for remember the low for long phrase. So we've got these multiple problems that are going on, and it endangers the dollar. So that's the basic case.
Instead of the Fed having such large balances, wouldn't the private sector be starting businesses and risking capital and bringing returns and adding to growth. Wouldn't all that money be better if it wasn't with the Fed?
That's right, and we're depending on private equity. So as the banks get squeezed out, because they're lending so much to the Fed, it's literally a floating rate loan from banks to the Federal Reserve so it can buy government bonds. So if that were freed up, that would allow the banks to at least consider a small business loan, an inventory loan, the kinds of things that help the economy grow. And this is on a global basis. It's not just the Fed. It's all the major central banks doing the same thing, meaning taking money from the economy in order to buy government bonds. We need to be clear on that. I heard the previous segment, they talk about money printing. There isn't any money printing on it. It's just money borrowing, and they pay top dollar for it. The Fed pays 5.4 to banks and 5.3 to money market funds, so to the Fidelity and Vanguard and so on.
Now, the reason why the banks will go for this, by the way, of course, is because, it is widely believed that the federal government can't default, right? So if the banks can get 5.4 return on essentially like zero risk, they're going to lend all of their money to the Fed, right? Why are they going to lend it to the plebs, right? When there's a possibility the plebs might default. It's a safe bet. Okay, so we've got this about the Treasury. Now, this is amazing. Musk said that he just learned that the Social Security database is not deduplicated, meaning you can have the same Social Security number many times over, which further enables massive fraud. Your tax dollars are being stolen. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, actually. And finally, Musk tweeted, he basically said that the Department of Education no longer exists per MSNBC. I don't know if this is a real story or not, bros. Don't trust MSNBC, but, it is what it is.